This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Welcome to Disabled Persons Assembly's notable radio show. DPA is the voice of all disabled people, whether the disability be physical, sensory, learning, psychosocial or age-related. Over the next half hour, we'll discover how we can work collaboratively to achieve inclusion for all New Zealanders. DPA's notable radio show, a whole new attitude.
Welcome to DPA Notable Radio. Today we have Juanita Willems. Juanita works with Blind Citizens, and she is also heading up the Otago version of Foster Hope. Welcome, Juanita.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Right, so I'm Amy Taylor. I'm your host today on DPA Notable Radio. Just a reminder that I've taken over from Chris Ford after 10 long years of running this show. He's decided to pack it in favour of some of his policy work that he is doing for DPA at the moment. So that's me, and that's why I'm here rather than Chris. And we're going to talk to Juanita today. Firstly, Juanita, can you tell me a little bit about the work you do in the community?
Thanks, Amy. I am the current chair for Blind Citizens New Zealand for the Otago branch. I'm also the coordinator for Foster Hope Otago Southland, and I'm on the disability leadership group for Your Way Kia Roha. I think those are my main. I'm a mother and a
You wear a lot of hats, don't you?
Yeah.
It's actually very common for those that are very active in the disabled community to wear a lot of different hats and be involved in a lot of different spaces. But Juanita is something of a superstar in our community because she does a lot of community work. Her work for Foster Hope helps a lot of children, and it's greatly appreciated by those that are helped. Can you tell me a bit about your work with Foster Hope Otago?
Absolutely. So, I have been, I set up and have been running Foster Hope Otago Southland for the last...
Oh, so it includes Southland as well.
Yes,
my mistake.
That's all right. And I'm just trying to get used to, we've always supported Southland. However, the name hasn't always reflected that, so which meant we weren't getting as much support out of Southland. So a couple of years ago, we made the decision to add Southland, and I'm still getting used to using it myself.
It's quite a long name, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But it is really important because it has increased the support we're getting from the Southland community. So, so we've been, this will be my 14th year running it.
Wow, that's a long time.
I know, it feels like ages. It's changed so much. We started out 14 years ago with, I think we did 50 backpacks. So when we talk about backpacks, we're talking about a backpack filled with essential items, stuff that everybody takes for granted: pyjamas, underwear, toiletries, toothbrush, clothing, that sort of thing. So we started out with 50, I think we did, and I was like, cool, okay. Yep, that's really cool. Well, now
still seems like a lot, doesn't it?
It does. However, now last year's or the last financial year's numbers were around 2,500 between Oamaru and Invercargill and everything in between. So we cover all of Central Otago as well. So it has evolved a lot. But traditionally when these kids come into care, not always, but more often than we'd like to think, they come with what they're wearing. So it's really important that they have something that is their own, something they can take with them as they start their foster care journey, and some essentials just to get them through the next sort of 48 hours. We don't want caregivers having to race out and buy the right size PJs or the right size underwear or period products for a teenage girl. So that essentially is what our backpacks do. We also do flatting transition packs, so where kids would normally, or young people who are looking to leave home, would traditionally have parents that would have a glory box, I guess probably not even a thing these days, keeping items for them to go flatting. Yeah.
Well, I certainly remember my parents putting all sorts of things away, and then I moved to the other side of the planet and it was all useless. But
Exactly. So in that, a lot of these kids that come out of group homes or come out of transitional care haven't had someone to do that. So we provide them with either a bedding pack or a kitchen essentials pack just to get them started on their journey. And then the final part of what we do is our Christmas present drive, which pretty much consumes most of November and December, and then often part of January as we pack it all away for the year. So that's sort of the three main areas that we deal with. And as I said, we cover I look after 23 or support 23 different foster care or care-based agencies across
that's a lot as well.
It is a lot. And some of them, unfortunately, I can't mention, but they're definitely out there. And we do have a wait list of agencies that I'm currently saying, look, we just don't have the capacity for that. So we've grown a lot over that time, 100% voluntary. Every role, every aspect of what we do is done by volunteers. And honestly, internally grateful for the support I've had over the last 14 years. And the community support is unreal, absolutely second to none. I put a call out, stuff arrives on my doorstep. It's just crazy.
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about how we can support you? I know your pajama drive is just around the corner. It's getting cold.
Yes, this weekend actually I'm going to launch it. So this year we're going to run things a little bit differently, and we're going to run it for May and June. And we do have some areas where we are very, very short immediately. So we're hoping to try and sort of knock some of those off our needs list before we open it up into a wider collection of PJs. What we don't want is kids in the community missing out because we've got 50 billion pairs of wonderfully donated size 3 or size 4 as an example, which we currently have stacks of. So we're going to be looking for newborn, 7 and 8s and both girl and boys, and then the teenage years up. So 12-year, we have absolutely not a pair of 12-year-old PJs in stock at the moment. The last few that we had, I think Amy might have been donated by you actually, have gone out the door. And there's nothing that they're really hard to come by. So drop points will be launched on our Facebook page, so Foster Hope Otago Southland on Facebook over the weekend. And you basically just, we're asking people in the first instance to sort of try and support the sizes that we need so that we're not taking extras out of the community that someone else might be missing out on. Or you are welcome to donate the equivalent that you would spend on PJs for us in money. We have some bulk buying power, and we have some really good discounts at the likes of the warehouse where we may be able to get an extra pair for the price of one that you might buy. So keep a lookout online for all of that information.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can you tell me a little bit about whether those pajamas need to be new or second-hand?
Yes, thank you. So our preference is, or we do insist actually, on them being new. In a lot of instances, these kids are often referred to as second-hand kids. So it's a terrible term, but it's something that is thrown around a lot within the foster care system. And so we do insist that they're new, and we are actually going to be doing, I should have said PJs and underwear this year. So again, it does need to be new. We're very, very low on our current underwear stocks, so we're going to just combine the two. Definitely new, please. Any second-hand ones that come in will be checked and they will be used as backups, but they won't form the primary PJ requirement for our backpacks.
Right, great. Thanks for that. And now I would like to talk a little bit about your role at Blind Citizens. I know that you're restricted in what you can talk about in this role. And I also want to talk about the little man who's under the table at the moment.
Awesome, absolutely. So I'm currently the chair for a newly established branch of Blind Citizens Otago. So we're part of obviously a wider organisation known as Blind Citizens New Zealand. We primarily what we do is we provide advocacy, awareness training and education to people in the community, to businesses in the community. So again, all voluntary. any member of Blind Low Vision NZ can be a part of Blind Citizens. So if they're partially sighted, deaf, blind or blind, they are welcome to come along and join us. And we run a coffee group and we run other bits and pieces, but primarily we work with, so we've done some training with the local bus companies to help improve the service to the blind community. And so when I speak about blind, I am encompassing all areas of blindness. We just prefer to use that term. We've done some work with local taxi companies, with the hospital, just to improve some of the areas where we're finding some challenges for the blind community.
Wonderful. And can you tell me about the wonderful canine companion you have today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very privileged to have Arnie with me, and Arnie is a guide dog provided by Guide Dogs New Zealand. He is going to be 8 this year, so I will end up starting the process at the end of this year to hopefully go back on the list for when he retires.
Oh gosh, that must be difficult.
Yeah, it's happened really quickly, but we're very fortunate that we all going well, everything being as it is now. We intend to keep Arnie with us.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so pleased to hear that.
But, not everybody can, and that's where it is difficult. Often if you're in a council flat or something, the minute that dog retires, he or she becomes a pet, therefore they're not allowed to remain. So that people often do rehome them within families or within friend groups so that they do get to keep that relationship. These dogs are with us 24/7.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, most of the time. Even when you go to the loo round to my house, you've got someone following you. But yeah, and look, he's been an absolute godsend. But a lot of the work that we do and a lot of the stuff, just the basic stuff we do every day, we end up doing a lot of education with the community as we go around the rules with guide dogs and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the case for many people in the disabled community. I find myself educating people on wheelchair etiquette on a daily basis. And I think with a dog, it's even more so. My children are here today because it's school holidays, so they're just waiting outside. And Miss Caroline, who is 10, was over the moon to see Arnie this morning. But we had to talk through the guide dog rules with her because children don't always realise that dogs are working.
Absolutely. Actually, children are probably they're actually better than a lot of adults, if I'm really honest.
To hear.
And I often hear people in the community when I'm out and about, sort of shushing their child when they say, why's that lady got a dog? Or why is there a dog allowed in here? And, if I've got time and it suits what I'm up to or whatever, I will actually say to that parent, hey, would you mind if I just take a moment to explain? And, the rules around guide dogs have changed a little bit. It is up to each handler whether we allow you to talk to, pet or interact with our dog once they're seated and obviously not working. But, I'll often say to a parent, look, not meaning to be rude, but if you shush your child when they ask a genuine question about that dog, they're never going to learn. So I will quite often explain what the harness is for and that you are supposed to ask. And, I'll get Arnie to sit and allow a child to say hello to him. So the rules are a wee bit different to what they were a few years back, but definitely interacting with a guide dog or any service dog while they're working is incredibly dangerous. Incredibly dangerous. It can I've been turned around in a complete opposite direction and as a totally blind person have absolutely no idea where I am and have to reorientate myself and, I've had people try and do it while I'm crossing the road and you don't.
Oh, gosh.
It just doesn't fathom thinking what can happen. So the guide dog statistics of handlers and dogs that have been injured is pretty high. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really important to talk to people around you and learn what they feel comfortable with as well. I mean, I find this on a pretty much daily basis. I also get the parents shushing, and it's actually pretty mortifying when you're talking to a child who's actually asking fairly reasonable questions for somebody who's like 6 years old, and the parents go, shush, shush, shush. So don't do that. That's not necessary. Let your child interact with people. We're human beings. If a child's natural instinct is to interact, then we interact back.
And what we find a lot too in the community, and I'm sure you'll find the same thing, is that a lot of kids especially may or may not have ever met someone in a wheelchair, or they may not have ever met a blind person. And as you say, we're just human beings. We're not scary. And I think letting us interact with your child or with anyone asking a question is super important, because they go, oh, actually, they're just like you or me. Okay, they've got their challenges. They maybe can't walk, or they're in a wheelchair from time to time, or they're blind, but they are just human beings. So, yeah, that education, I do quite a bit in some of the schools, the primary schools, and the change. Yeah, like I've written, gone in, written the kids' names in Braille, sort of explained about Arnie, allowed them to ask all sorts of questions. And I've had questions such as, but you've got eyes, because this is a year one, or whatever the first year one child, so obviously 5. You've got eyes. How can you be blind if you've got eyes? And so, to me, that's not a silly question. That's very real, because in their mind, having maybe never met a blind person before, they think that blind people don't have eyes. So, yeah, the questions are always a bit of a giggle, but always really, really open and raw with kids. So I really enjoy that.
I must say, I enjoy the straightforward questions. Yeah. So a little boy in the lift the other day asked me how old I was, and I said, I'm 37, but you don't normally ask grown-ups how old they are. How old are you? I'm 7. You're 30 whole years older than me. And I was like, yeah, I'm ancient. I'm over the hill completely. But this is sort of like openness that children have that adults don't always have. And I think that sometimes we can learn from that, certainly.
Absolutely. Please don't stop your child asking. There might be this odd person with a disability who's having a bad day, and we've certainly all had them, who might be a wee bit grumpy or not want to interact with your child. But a lot of us we really just want people in the community to be educated and understand that actually we're just trying to get about our day like everybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I found actually with having young children at school, initially when I started using my wheelchair, the kids would be really hesitant, and now all their friends are just as comfortable with me as they are. So that's really, it's been wonderful to watch that.
Awesome.
Right, let's have a little bit of a chat about your way, Kia Roha. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so again, sort of have to be reasonably careful with what I share, but I've been involved. I want to say we're coming into our 3rd year, so it's quite a new group, and we are involved with the connections and funding side of disability through Your Way Kia Roha, and there's quite a group of us. There's about 8 of us now. We've just taken in some more people, and we all have some sort of lived experience with disability. So in my case, I ended up on there as the mother of a child with multiple disabilities. He's in his 20s, and then obviously living with a disability myself. So, some of the work we're looking at doing is looking at that transition stage between a child finishing school and moving into what we're calling the real world, I guess, into the world, and, working out how that should be navigated. We're finding that across a lot of the disability sectors, there's lots of snippets of information. We're really trying to pull that information together to form almost like a guide to people to be able to go, because, what we found was in the early stages was there were a lot of us, or there's 3 of us in particular on the group who have kids a similar age who have had very different experiences in leaving school. And, they've all got disabilities, and we've all been able to access or not access different parts of the community. So trying to that's our advocacy goal is to look at how does that look moving forward. And obviously we have discussions around people, or not people specifically, but we ask the questions around funding and maybe why funding has been declined in this case or not in another. So, yeah, we meet every couple of months, and, we're still making our way in the world, but, yeah, we're getting there.
Well, I've certainly come across a lot of people in the community with adult children who have not been able to find residential care places or be accepted for them. And there seems to be quite a lot of anxiety around older parents on what happens when they can no longer provide the care that their child needs.
Oh, as the mum of as I say, a 20-year-old who'll be 21 this year, it is absolutely at that stage where you have to. And, we've started looking into that prior to the government funding and changes and stuff. And we sort of had what we thought was a plan, and then the funding changed and it was just ripped away at the moment. And, you've got to live in hope that moving forward things will change again. But yeah, absolutely. The earlier you can start making those decisions or having those discussions. They told me that when I went, they said, look, we're just so pleased you're not here at 75 going, I have a disabled child that I care for. What do I do now? Or I'm worried about the future, because the earlier you can get onto that and start those plans, the better it is. And that's the advice that was given to me. So, yeah.
Well, it's good to know and good to pass on to our community. Now, I would like to talk about your recent award. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I always hate these questions, Amy.
We need to show off when we can.
Thank you. I'm not that person, but...
neither am I, if I'm honest.
I'm always very humbled. So the award, I'm assuming you're talking about the Community Woman of the Year.
Absolutely, yes.
So that was at the Women's Refuge Inspirational Women's Awards, and I'm always really humbled by it, because I never ever do any of this for the accolades, and I could absolutely go the rest of my life without anybody ever acknowledging the work that I do. I did do it for a number of years without any accolades, and initially I was a wee bit sort of, oh gosh, now that I've lost my vision, I'm getting nominated for these awards. And to me, the simple fact was it wouldn't have mattered whether I'd lost my vision. I was still going to run Foster Hope, which was where this award originated from. But it was absolutely amazing, a wonderful night. And honestly, I had actually previously won an award there a couple of years before. So when I was announced as a finalist, I was like, cool, I'll go along, have a nice night, weekend away in Queenstown with my husband and all the rest of it, and genuinely didn't even prepare a speech, because I didn't think,
well, it just
was
shows
possible.
What such a humble person Juanita really is.
I always stand up there and fumble my way through a speech, because I genuinely didn't even think that I would have won it. So, yeah, really cool, and really grateful to the lovely ladies at Youth Services that actually nominated me for this one. So, yeah, or Comcol Youth Services, sorry, before they tell me off.
Well, we're very proud of you as a community and the work that you do. It's really time to finish off. Is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners before we finish?
Goodness me, that went quick. If I have a moment to share one message, it really would be in terms of going back to the blind community. If you're not sure of how to help us, the key message I would give you is just ask. Ask us what we need, because we can tell you absolutely. Please don't pull us across the road by our arms or jump up behind us.
I laugh, but it's true, unfortunately.
So for me, currently, just that's some of the stuff that the community's going through at the moment, is that real people are intending to help. And look, quite often we'll let you help even if we don't actually need it, because we're so grateful that you have. But biggest thing is just ask, how can I help you? And please don't assume that we do need your help. But that's my biggest message. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, Amy, or talk with, for us to talk together about this stuff. It's, really passionate about the disability community and just really humbled to have been invited along to come and talk.
All right. Well, thank you for that. That's absolutely wonderful to chat to you today and hear about all the excellent work you do in the community. That's been Juanita Willems, who is from Blind Citizens and Foster Hope Otago, Southland, as well as Your Way, Kia Roha. Thank you, Juanita.
Disabled Persons Assembly is Aotearoa New Zealand's first pan-disability organisation, acting as the voice of all disabled people, whether the disability be physical, sensory, learning, psychosocial or age-related. You'll find our national website at www.dpa.org.nz. Disabled Persons Assembly, a whole new attitude.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.